Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome learners. We are back to our course of microeconomics and its applications, and today is our fourth lecture of the first unit. I am Dr. Aparna Samudra, the course coordinator as well as the presenter of this particular lecture. Let us understand, learners, that what all are we going to learn today in this lecture. First, we will understand the applications of the price elasticity of demand, the concept of which we have already understood in the previous lecture. Thereafter, in this lecture, we will also be understanding that what do we mean by income elasticity of demand as well as cross elasticity of demand. So let's begin our journey. Before starting the application of the elasticity of demand to any decision making, I think it is important for us to just do a recap of the elasticity of demand which we had understood in the previous lecture. I would like to bring your attention to what all we did. We had made the definition, or we have understood the definition of price elasticity of demand. What was elasticity of demand? We had seen that if there is a change in any of the determinants of demand, and because of that change, we see some change in the level of the quantity demanded of that product, that we measured by elasticity of demand. We had in detail understood the concept of price elasticity of demand. As the name is indicating here, price elasticity of demand will be measuring that what is the percentage change in quantity demanded of the product because there is some change in the price. So we say it is the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. We had also understood that there are various types of elasticity of demand. That is, when we calculate this elasticity of demand, the answer that we get has certain interpretations. We had talked about two extreme cases, that is, where the elasticity of demand was zero, which we had called as perfectly inelastic demand, and the demand curve for the same was a vertical line. The other extreme case of elasticity of demand we had seen when the demand was elasticity of demand was perfectly elastic. That is, where the demand curve was horizontal or ED was infinite. The other three cases we had said that the demand price elasticity of demand may be inelastic. When is it inelastic? When the answer for your elasticity of demand, that is when you divide the percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage in price and the answer that you get is less than 1, then we say that the price elasticity of demand is inelastic, which means that the responsiveness of the quantity demanded is less compared to the change in price. And when does this happen? This happens when we say this is a case typical of necessities. Second was where your answer of elasticity of demand or price elasticity of demand, as they are synonymously called many times, your ED is greater than 1. And if your price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, we say it is elastic, meaning to say that the proportionate change or the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater or is more than the percentage change in price. For example, if the price changed by 1% and the percentage change in quantity of demanded was 5%, this means the numerator, which is the percentage change in quantity demanded, is 5. The denominator, which is the percentage change in price, is 1. The elasticity of demand will be greater than 1. So whenever your answer of elasticity is greater than 1, we say it is elastic demand. And when does this happen? This is a very typical case of luxuries. Third type we had said was unit elastic. Unit elastic means that the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in price. So your numerator and the denominator are the same. Therefore, the answer is equal to 1. Also, one point we all need to understand and keep in mind is that whenever you are calculating price elasticity of demand, either way you go, whether you go from original to new or from new to original, the answer will always carry a negative sign. But in case when we are doing the interpretation, we ignore this negative sign of elasticity of demand and we just take into consideration the absolute number. Why? Because this negative sign is just giving you an indication of the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So when we say elasticity of demand is less than 1, so even if your answer is minus 0.5, minus 0.5, we are ignoring that minus sign because minus is just telling you that price and demand are inversely related because your demand curve is also shown as downward sloping or it is also called as negatively sloping. That is when one variable increases, the other variable decreases. If price increases, demand decreases. If price decreases, demand increases. Therefore, your price elasticity of demand carries a negative sign. But for the purpose of interpretation, we will be ignoring this negative sign. So this is our recap of the concept of elasticity and price elasticity of demand. So let us now see that how does this elasticity of demand gets applied in various business or policy decision making. Okay, so what are the various applications of the concept of price elasticity of demand or how it can help a businessman or the government when they are designing any policies? So the first application of price elasticity of demand takes place when the businessman wants to fix the price of the product. That is, in case of the pricing decision for the businessman, price elasticity of demand helps him to fix the price of the product. Now you may be wondering that how it is done. When a businessman, if for example, he knows about the law of demand, which indicates that when he increases the price of his product, the demand of his product will decrease. But we know that how much will be the change in the quantity demanded when he changes the price can be measured by the by the help of elasticity of demand. So if he comes to know that if he decreases the price, of course the quantity demanded will increase, but it may not increase his total revenue, then this would mean that a fall in price did not help him to increase his profits. So even though the demand increased, but his profits or the total revenue did not increase because the response of the change in quantity demanded was less than the change in price. So in that case, he should not be decreasing the price of the product because it will not help him to increase his revenue and in turn increase his profits because the demand for his particular product is inelastic. Whereas if he increases the demand, if he decreases the price of his product and he has the product's demand is elastic in nature, this will increase the quantity demanded more than the decrease in price. Therefore, his total revenue will increase and his profits will increase. So then it will be favorable for him to decrease the price because the demand of his product was elastic. The responsiveness of the quantity demanded was greater than the change in price. So it helped him to increase his revenue and also increase his profits. So By knowing the elasticity of demand of his product, the businessman can take a decision whether to increase the price or not to increase the price, whether to decrease the price or not to decrease the price. So pricing decisions to a large extent can be taken by any businessman by keeping in mind the price elasticity of his product that he is manufacturing. The second application of price elasticity of demand is in the pricing of the factors of production. Whatever factors of production are being used for the purpose of whatever output you are producing, whether it is labor, whether it is land, whether it is capital, we have to pay the compensation for the use of this resource. So how much has to be paid will be also dependent, or how much the factors of production will ask for the use of their resources will be dependent on what is their elasticity. If the factors of production have an inelastic demand, maybe because the availability of substitutes for these factors of production is less, they will demand a higher price or higher compensation, because they know that even if they ask for a higher price, their demand will not decline so much as the price increases there or their wages increases there. So the trade unions can pressurize or will go for a greater bargaining power. Whereas if the factors of production have an elastic demand, they may not be in a position to push for this greater bargaining power, because they know that if they increase their compensation or if they increase their price more, there will be a greater fall in their demand. So the pricing of the factors of production, whether it is land, whether it is labor, will be dependent on the elasticity of these factors of production. Another important application of your elasticity of demand is in the pricing of the joint products. What are joint products? See, sometimes production process is such that two things get manufactured together. For example, if you are into sheep farming, so taking wool and meat of the sheep are something which will come together. For example, when somebody is into oil refining, byproducts of the oil apart from the refined oil that we are getting, byproducts like paraffin wax, they will come out with the product. Similarly, if you are into sugar manufacturing, there will be certain byproducts of that sugar that you are manufacturing. So when two products are jointly produced, because one will be produced automatically with the other, in that case, elasticity of the demand of both the products will help the businessman to decide that how much price he should charge for both the products. Because both of the products are being produced together, but maybe the elasticity of both the products may be different. So for the product whose demand is inelastic, he will be able to charge a higher price compared to the other joint product, the demand for elasticity of demand for which may be elastic. Okay, so in case of joint production, products which are going to be produced jointly in the same time, the pricing of those products can be done with the help of knowing the individual elasticity of demand for the product. Then, another very important application of price elasticity of demand is price discrimination. This we will be doing later on in the course of this particular microeconomics only. What is price discrimination? Just for now, we'll understand that a seller may be selling the same product in two different markets or two different consumers at different prices. That is called as price discrimination. So, how much price need to be charged to these two different consumers or in these two different markets will be dependent on what is the level of price elasticity of these two consumers. or these two markets. The seller for the same product may be able to charge a higher price in that market, or to that consumer, the demand for the price elasticity for whom is inelastic. Whereas he may be charging a lower price in that market where the demand is elastic. For example, you are selling in two different markets A and B. In market A, you are the only seller. So there are no substitutes available. Therefore, you may be able to charge a higher price. Whereas in the other market, there are a number of substitutes available. So automatically more substitutes would mean higher elasticity of demand. So you will charge a lesser price. Then another application, very important application, is of the shifting of the tax burden. Indirect taxes in particular. If, for example, government is charging some GST, okay, that is goods and service taxes being charged. How much of that tax burden will be absorbed by the producer, and how much tax burden he will shift to the consumer will be determined by what is the price elasticity of demand of that product. If the product has inelastic demand, the producer will be able to shift a greater burden to the consumers because he knows that the consumer will not reduce the demand of the product so much as the price has increased because of this shifting of the tax burden. Whereas if the demand elasticity is more, or it is elastic demand, the producer will take greater share of this tax burden because he will not be able to shift a greater part, knowing a higher increase in price will lead to a greater reduction in the demand of this product. So that's shifting of the tax burden. Then from the government perspective, price elasticity of demand of exports and imports, that is, in international trade, they play a very important role. If a country is facing some issues in its balance of payment or with its foreign exchange reserves, and it wants to limit its imports or it wants to increase its exports, how much should be the value of its currency compared to the foreign currency, and whether that value of its home currency should be reduced compared to the foreign currency, and how much impact it will have on the exports and imports will be determined by that what is the elasticity of demand of exports and what is the elasticity of demand of imports. There is a term which is called as devaluation. What does devaluation mean, learners? Devaluation means that a country specifically is reducing the price of its domestic currency compared to the foreign currency. For example, if we reduce the value of Indian rupee compared to dollar, we will call it as devaluation. That is, we are making our rupee cheaper compared to the dollar. If the country is doing this, because if it feels that if my rupee will become cheaper, this means my domestic products in the international market will become cheaper. And going by the law of demand, your cheaper product should increase the demand of your product. But if your exports it demands elasticity does not correspond so much to the change in price, that devaluation policy may not help you. Because when you reduce the price of your home currency, your imports will also become expensive because your foreign currency has become expensive. And if the demand of your imports is inelastic, your total expenditure will increase. And if your exports have an inelastic demand as well, your total revenue will also decline. So, whether your exports and imports, what type of elasticity of demand they have, will also determine whether the policy of devaluation in your international trade has worked in your favor or not. So I will again repeat this point. When we are talking about elasticity of demand and its importance in international trade, what we are saying is that if a country is facing some foreign exchange problems, or if a country wants to correct its balance of payment, it wants to give impetus to its exports and it wants to reduce its imports, and it thinks that let me devalue my home currency. That is, let me reduce the value of my home currency compared to the foreign currency. And the objective behind this being that if I reduce the value of my home currency, my exports will become cheaper. People will buy more of my goods and I will earn greater foreign exchange. But this policy will be effective or not will depend on what kind of elasticity of imports we have and what kind of elasticity for exports we have. Let us go back to imports. If your import elasticity, if the price elasticity for your imports is inelastic, and we have reduced the value of your home currency by making foreign currency expensive, what is going to happen is that your imports will become expensive. We will spend more on the import bill. So that has not helped us by way of devaluation because we are spending more on the imports. And if your exports also have an inelastic demand, means that even though the price has declined, but the amount of quantity demanded of exports is not increased in proportion or more than the fall in price. So ultimately, the total revenue which we are going to earn from your exports will fall. So that policy of devaluation will not help in such a case. So the government has to see before going in for devaluation what type of elasticity of exports and imports we have. Then another very important policy making is with respect to the explanation of paradox of poverty. What is this paradox of poverty? Particularly this happens in case of agriculture goods. When there is bumper crop, when there is very good agriculture production in one particular year, and there is excess supply of that agricultural product, what is going to happen is that the price of that particular agriculture product will fall because there is excess supply of that particular agriculture product. So the farmers, for them, the price of their output or their agricultural product will fall. Now, law of demand will say that when the price has fallen, the demand will increase. Demand will increase. But we all know that many of the agricultural products are coming in necessities. And necessities have inelastic demand. Therefore, with excess production of agriculture in one particular year, the demand price fell. Demand increased, but not so much as the fall in price. So the total revenue of the farmers will fall. So we see so many times in the news, that farmers are throwing away their tomatoes because there is excess production of tomatoes and people are not willing to buy so much tomatoes. So why is this happening? Because this excess production leads the farmer not to get well off, but it has made them worse off because the total revenue which they earned by selling this excess production has fallen because their product, agriculture product, had an inelastic demand because it is a necessity. That is where the government steps in with the agriculture price policy by fixing a minimum support price that it says that the market price should not go below this point because it will lead to a poverty situation for our farmers. So paradox of poverty is explained by way of your price elasticity of demand, and that is how the government takes a decision for fixing the minimum support price for your agriculture products so that our farmers do not get worse off when in case of bumper crop. So these are all the applications of the price elasticity of demand. And learners, I would request all of you to keep in mind that graph which we had made in the previous lecture, which had explained that how revenue and how elasticity are related to each other, and that will give you a very clear visualization of all the application of the price elasticity of demand. Moving forward with the next topic, subtopic of this lecture is the income elasticity of demand. We have already understood that elasticity of demand is measuring the change in quantity demanded due to change in any of the factor which determines demand. One major factor is price elasticity of demand, and we have already discussed in detail the price elasticity of demand. Now we move to income elasticity of demand. As the name is indicating, income elasticity of demand is seeing the impact of change in income of the consumer to the change in the demand of that product. We all know that it is income which is giving the consumers the ability to buy. A change in income will change their ability to buy. And change in ability to buy means the demand for the product is going to change. So how do we define income elasticity of demand? We say income elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a good responds to a change in consumer's income. That is, if the consumer's income changes by 1%, other things remaining constant, price has not changed, it is only the income is changing. If income changes by 1%, how much does the quantity demanded of that good changes? That is measured by the income elasticity of demand. It is computed as the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in income. Very similar to what we have done in price elasticity. In price, we had taken the price as the denominator because we were understanding the impact of change in price. In income elasticity, we are taking the percentage change in income as a denominator because we are computing the percentage change in demand which has happened because of change in income. So this is the formula which we use for calculating income elasticity of demand, that is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in income. Now, as we have seen the types of elasticity of demand for price, similarly, when we calculate elasticity of income or income elasticity of demand by comparing the percentage change in quantity demanded to percentage change in income, the answer which you get, EY, that is your income elasticity of demand, the answer may be greater than 1, which means that your quantity demanded represented by QD and income are directly related. That is, when the income increases, your quantity demanded also increases and it increases more than the change in income. This situation, we say that the demand of income is elastic, and this happens in case of normal goods. Income elasticity may be between 0 to 1. Sorry, this should have been 1. It can be between 0 to 1. 0 to 1 means that again when there is an increase in income, there is an increase in quantity demanded, but not as much as the increase in income. So we call it as income inelastic, but it is still positive. Income elasticity may be less than 0. Less than 0 means that the answer is negative and your income and quantity demanded are inversely related. Meaning to say that when income increases, the demand of this product decreases. The consumer does not want to buy more of this product because he considers this product to be inferior and he was buying this product because his income did not allow him to buy the better quality product. So income elasticity can be less than 0, it can be between 0 to 1, or it can be greater than 1. But one thing we have to remember here is that unlike price elasticity of demand, the sign which you get for your income elasticity of demand helps you to differentiate whether the good is a normal good or it is an inferior good. If it is an inferior good, your income elasticity will carry a negative sign. If your income elasticity has a positive sign, then we will call it as a normal good. So please take into consideration that whenever you calculate income elasticity of demand, please see what sign that you are getting. Whether the sign is positive, whether the sign is negative. Negative means the goods are inferior goods. Positive sign means the goods are normal goods. The second concept that we have is called as cross price elasticity of demand, and it is saying the impact of the change in the price of related goods which brings a change in the quantity demanded of this good. Two types of related goods we had discussed. One was complement, other was substitutes. What were substitutes? Two goods which can be used instead of one another. Either or, tea or coffee. One brand of tea, another brand of tea. One brand of shampoo, another brand of shampoo. One brand of soap or another brand of soap. So those are called as substitutes. Other related goods are complements. Those two goods which are used together. For example, car and tires, table and chairs, computer and software. They are all related goods. So cross price elasticity is basically saying what is the impact of change in price of one good on the demand of another good. If the price of Y changes, how much does the quantity of X changes? When the price of Y changes, we know that the quantity of Y is going to change. But if it also brings a change in the demand of another good, that is measured by your elasticity, which we call as cross elasticity of demand. So if there are two goods in question, X and Y, we say cross elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded of good X to percentage change in the price of good Y. That is, we are taking price of one good and we are saying that the change in price of this particular good, how much percentage change it has brought in the quantity demanded of another good X. So, demand of one good is being compared with the price of another good. If price of one particular good changes, how much percentage change it brings in the demand of another good is measured by your cross elasticity of demand. For example, if we are saying if the demand for Pepsi decreases by 10%, after the price of Coke has decreased by 5%. Two goods in question, Pepsi and Coke. Demand for Pepsi has decreased by 10% because we saw that the price of Coke decreased by 5%. Then the cross elasticity of demand for Pepsi will be 10%, that is minus 10%. Why minus 10? Because the demand declined. It fell by minus 10, by 10%. Why did it fall? We are comparing it with the price of fall in price of Coke. So in the denominator we are writing 5%. So minus 10% divided by minus 5% will give you 2. So the answer is positive. So positive means the cross elasticity of demand. These two goods are substitutes to each other. Why? Because instead of Pepsi or Coke, both can be taken instead of each other. Because Coke became cheaper, people shifted from Pepsi to Coke. So the demand of Coke must have increased, but the demand of Pepsi has fallen. Another example, if the demand for computer software increases by 45% because there is a decline in the price of computers, has declined, but because computers have become cheaper, if you want to run a computer, you need softwares in it. So software's demand increased by 45%. So you are comparing cross elasticity between what? Personal computers and softwares. So the cross elasticity would be plus 45% increase in the demand of softwares divided by decline in price 15% of the computers. So 45 divided by minus 15. Why minus 15? Because price has declined. It has reduced. So your answer will be minus 3. So what do we see here? That the sign of your cross elasticity is very important for you to understand whether these two goods are complements or whether they are substitutes. So if your cross elasticity of demand given by EXY is greater than 0, this means that the quantity demanded of the good X and the price of Y are directly related. That is, when the price of one increases, the demand of other increases. When the price of one decreases, the demand of other good decreases. When will this happen? When these two goods are substitutes. If your cross elasticity is approaching 0 or it is equal to 0, this means that these two goods are not related to each other because change in price of one did not have the change in or impact on the change in demand of another. For example, price of let us say ice creams and price demand of cars, they are not related to each other, so you cannot compare and your answer may be 0. However, if your EXY or cross elasticity answer is less than 0, then these two goods X and Y are complements because the demand of X and the price of Y are inversely related. Okay, so that are your complements. So here in case of both income elasticity and cross elasticity learners, it is very important to see that what is the sign of your elasticity. Unlike price elasticity of demand, because this sign will help you to comment that what type of relationship these goods have. Whether in case of income elasticity, whether the goods are normal, whether they are necessities, whether they are luxuries, whether the goods is inferior, that you can comment by seeing the sign of income elasticity. Similarly, by seeing the answer of the cross elasticity of the two goods, you can say whether the goods are related by way of being complements or substitutes or whether they are unrelated. So that you must keep in mind before commenting or interpreting these elasticities. So let us do a small quiz based on your income and cross elasticity. For example, I am telling you, you can see this question very carefully. We are saying there is a 10% increase in income, and it has caused a 5% decrease in quantity demanded. Therefore, the income elasticity will be, how do we calculate income elasticity? We say it is percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in income. So we will divide, what will be the answer? Will it be 0.5, minus 2, 2 or D? This answer you have to give. I have already given you a hint. Income elasticity is what? It is percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price. Please see the direction of the change in price and also the change in income. What are we going to do? We are going to say that income elasticity is minus 5%. Why? Because there is a decline in quantity demanded divided by 10%. Minus 5 by 10. What will be the answer? Answer will be minus 0.5. And what type of a good is it? Is it a normal good or is it an inferior good? It is an inferior good. Why? Because with your increase in income, you are buying less of it. Another question. If goods are complements, then their income elasticities are negative, their income elasticity is positive, their cross elasticity is positive, their cross elasticity is negative. What will happen? If two goods are complements, whether we will consider income elasticity or whether we will consider cross elasticity. That is the first thing you'll have to eliminate. Yes, you will not be taking into account income elasticity, you will be considering only the cross elasticities. Now, when the goods are complements, whether the cross elasticity will be positive or whether it will be negative, give it a thought. What will be the answer? The answer will be negative. That is D. Cross elasticities will be negative. We have just seen that. We just explained it. So, let us summarize today's lecture. 1. We have seen that price elasticity has various useful applications for businessmen as well as for government. Right from pricing decision of the product, pricing decision of the factors of production, also whether we have to discriminate price, how much we have to charge in each market, that can be determined by price elasticity. Similarly, whether the government should go for devaluation, whether it will be helpful for increasing the foreign exchange revenue or not, how to solve the problem of paradox of plenty, it can all be done by understanding the price elasticity of demand. Then we saw that how income and the price of related goods also changes the demand for the particular product. We saw that cross elasticity can be negative, it can be positive, and by seeing the sign, positive sign or negative sign, we can comment whether the goods are substitutes or complements. Similarly, income elasticity, whether it is greater than 1, is it greater than 0, is it less than 0, helps us to comment whether these particular goods are necessities, they are luxuries, they are normal goods, or they are inferior goods. So this is all that we have to do in the concept of elasticity of demand, wherein we have seen in detail that how by just knowing the quantum of change, so many decisions can be made. I hope you have all enjoyed this concept of elasticity of demand. Happy learning.